Our next speaker is a two-time keynote speaker of Bill LA, the author of the first book on 4G wireless, Brave New Unlimited World, and the recipient of the first Economist Magazine Readers Award for the innovation most likely to radically change the world, 2011 to 2020, on behalf of 4G wireless, after voting by people around the world. His next book is Augmented, Life in the Smart Lane. He's a pioneer in VR and AR with a ton of completed projects, including Best Avatar, and both the entertainment and grand prize category for SGI's Internet VR contest out of over 800 entries. Also, he's my friend because I get to see him almost every year around this time. Please give a warm welcome to Alex Lightman.
This is what's so great about medical virtual reality is you are the hero. I wanted to start by commending this book by Robin Farman-Formenian called The Patient as CEO. And she talks about her 6 surgeries and 43 operations, 3 organ removals, and in the beginning talks about how she wishes that people had told her what technologies were coming and how she really got her health under control when she became the CEO and made a panel of experts. And we have private medical records, but we also have our artwork. My friend Taylor's artwork is over in the corner, and in fact, there's some in the back of the room. But if we go and we start making 3D models of our organs, it gives us something that doesn't reveal our medical records, but it does give us an ability to start talking about and having a conversation. So today, I'm going to talk to you, for instance, about my thymus and why that matters and why you might want to talk about your thymus and get an MRI image and make a beautiful 3D model of it. Because this is a place where we can have, well, Hillary Clinton is famous for saying it takes a village to raise a child. I believe it takes a community like Bill to double our life expectancy and to increase our intelligence by 20, 30, 40 points and to be able to boost our immune system. So, and what's the main reason for this talk? It's because 12 million misdiagnoses per year is too many. I want to thank Francisco Miguel Trigueros and Taylor Bond and Chris Hartz for assistance in putting this together. Also, I've done 4 previous talks at Bill, for what it's worth. So, just getting this. Okay, this is, I like to say this at the beginning of every talk. The future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. Everything I'm talking about exists today. This isn't future stuff, it's now stuff, but it's for 5, 10, 15, 20 people. Now, given the abundance of computing power, everybody should have this and make use of it right now. Not everybody can go into Stanford's research MRI machine, but you can get MRIs, and you can get it increasingly less expensively because Moore's Law is also working on medical imaging. So, why medical VR? I think it's for 3 reasons. To make the complex comprehensible, the intangible graspable, and the future urgent. There's a song, Your Body is Wonderland. Well, one thing about that is that we have a quadrillion, 1,000 trillion chemical reactions happening in our body every second. We have 100,000 kilometers, or 62 miles, of tubes and pipes in our body. Arteries, veins, capillaries. I mean, how do you go and talk about something like if you just see one reading in blood, which I'll get to in a second, a specific one, but know how that works unless you're seeing the whole. We have, and this is the latest number, this is very up to date, 27 trillion cells and 23 million microorganisms that live in us. They used to say that you have 10 times as many. This is the newest number. And diet, exercise, fat loss, glucosis versus ketosis. It's incredibly complex. But really the biggest reason is that every year 12 million people are misdiagnosed. 1 in 20 people get a diagnosis. So in this room, taking a quick guess, 3 people will get a medical misdiagnosis if the averages hold for this group, and the group is big enough for that to happen. There are 98,000 Americans who are dying from medical mistakes each year. So VR is ultimately about the 4 steps involved in the medical process: observation, diagnosis, prognosis, and prescription. So time matters. There are 13 million people who had cancer in 2012. There are 1.6 million new diagnoses of cancer each year. It's 1 in 200 Americans each year get diagnosed with cancer, and there are 600,000 cancer-related deaths each year. I think that we can use VR to help find the cancer cells faster, and at stake are 1 million lives a year, because it's possible that a lot of these diseases will accelerate as we have the profusion of glyphosate and other cancer-causing substances on spread not only on our food, but now on lawns and grass. Also, heart disease. I got a reading for a high reactive C protein, HSCRP. But what was the source? Where did it come from? It can come from exercise. And I can actually run a 5-minute mile now on a treadmill. It can also come from getting the flu or getting a flu shot. Time matters in heart attacks. If you get treatment within an hour, you have a better than 50% chance of surviving. If you don't get treated within an hour, you have less than 50% chance. And finally, McKinsey and other people are telling hospitals that they've got it all wrong. They need to think of themselves as airports, and they need to think of the patients as airplanes that they guide through there. And so how do you go and you get your ER used? Well, your operating theater. They book it for half a day or a full day now, but if people practice the operations, they may be able to get a bigger throughput and get more people that care they need faster. So I want to start with talking about the thymus, because this is something that I've actually had an MRI of and are making a 3D model for a course of treatment. So with the thymus is something that maximizes its size at puberty. And then it gets all downhill from there. It's the fastest involuting, the fastest decaying organ in your body, 3% a year. So it's pretty much gone by the time you're 50. Now, there are things that even speed up the collapse of the thymus, the involution. Testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol from stress or from excessive exercise over an hour or so will all shrink your thymus. However, IGF-1 will increase it, clotho, and other things. So you have this thing, but 95% of the thymic size and function declines during your life. And the person who came up with this idea says, look, if you want to live forever, everything is shrinking in your body, except for maybe fat, adipose tissue. So if you keep shrinking and shrinking as you age, eventually you'll have zero mass. So at some point, you have to stop the shrinkage. And so this is where VR for the thymus comes in. So the thymus teaches a master class and is a finishing school for the T cells that emerge in my bone marrow. And it's critical to the adaptive immune system, which can have 1 trillion different ways of adapting itself to different kinds of threats. It teaches the body what's dangerous and what's not. And if it's screwed up, you can get Hashimoto syndrome. You can get MS, you can get lupus, you can get autoimmune diseases where your body has this great immune system, but it's attacking other parts of your body. So what we basically want to do is have a new treatment protocol. So I'm part of a study, and another person here is also part of it. And I'm in that study because of going to things like Bill and giving my time. The reward you get from giving talks to me is that you can learn one thing or have one person open a door to you and say, you know, you're a collaborator, you're a builder, you're building community. I want you to come in and have access to this medical trial. And this one in particular is meant to expand my life by 1/3. So it's really worth it. So the first step is have a detailed blood test with hundreds of factors. Second, go into the highest resolution MRI in the world, which is at Stanford, 7 Tesla. And to do this, though, to do it right, you have to be able to do yogic breathing. If you do Wim Hof method or you do other kinds of breathing, so you have to expel all the air out and then just hold your breath with no motion, no muscle twitch, anything, inside a little tiny tube for up to about 1 minute. So I can hold my breath for 3 minutes, no problem. The guy almost had tears at the MRI. He said, wow, that's the lowest heart rate and the most beautiful line I've ever seen. So yoga can save your life because it'll give you a higher resolution scan. Really, I'm serious. So the third thing is they take that data, and by the way, the average patient, anybody know how much data the average patient emits each year in our system? Yes. Very close. Good job, Doug. Doug is involved in sending large files securely. It's 2 terabytes a year. However, there's going to be more than that from these high-resolution scans. So you make this hyper-realistic VR thymus, and then you use open source software called Mango, and it will guess the volume. And then you do a treatment protocol, and you compare the mass of the thymus on day 0, 90, 180, 365, and then make changes in various treatment protocols. And then you see the evidence from the images and from the estimated mass of your thymus, and you see if it's regrown. What's the advantage of being a person in your 50s or 60s with a regrown thymus? Possibly an extra 1/3 of your life. So that is a big payoff for medical VR. So another thing is VR for the heart. How much time do I have? 5. Okay. So basically, the heart is an incredible system, and if you get a static image of it, you don't get the same image of the flow. Remember, because the heart is going and moving different valves, shutting them off, you have to see it in VR to really get the idea of what you're going to do to fix and repair the heart. So this is an image from HoloLens, but imagine being able to see that at much, much greater resolution. Also the colon. A lot of people die of colon cancer. It's very common because of the SAD, the standard American diet, which is very, very sad. But you have these things called flat lesions. They're less than 3 millimeters. And if you're just looking at them on an image, on a static image, you can't see them because there's not enough contrast, because it's almost the same color and just nearly there. But if you have VR at high resolution, you go, whoa, there's a flat lesion. Let's get it. Let's excise it. And so you can actually increase the rate of detection by 20% with this ecopixel system. And this is what an ecopixel system looks like. I mean, look at the detail and the resolution of that. It's incredible. So, and also VR for education. Here is an enormous opportunity. And this is an opportunity like the patient is CEO. The million doctor shortage is here. Do you know how many medical graduates we get each year? Only 18,750. That's nothing, and we'll have a shortfall of 1 million doctors. And that's by American standards. And as you'll see, American standards actually suck. So we need to reduce the cost of $51,000 a year. That's the average cost it takes for someone to go through medical school. One of these big costs is it costs $1,000 to $2,000 to prepare a cadaver to be operated on, to be dissected. You can't charge people for cadavers at schools. They're not paying, but they're paying for the preparation. But you can have a virtual cadaver, a system with haptic feedback, and give a sense of dissection authentic enough to get more people through. And the payoff is huge. If you're a surgeon, you can make $388,000 a year starting off, and if you're an orthopedic surgeon, you can make $488,000. And this is one of these systems teaching people how to go and do virtual dissections. So I'm big on Cuba. Some of you know that I wrote the book Reconciliation, 7-8 Reasons to End U.S. Embargo of Cuba. That is one of the main reasons we have resumed diplomatic relations with Cuba. I worked for the White House on 4 projects. Thank you. So check it out. Cuba, of all 215 nations, has the lowest patient-to-doctor ratio in the world. It's 155. It has 80,000 doctors for basically an area that's like the Southland. It's Southern California. You know, the Southland has 16 million, 11. So imagine 80,000 doctors here. And they make less than $500 a year. Medical care is Cuba's biggest exports, $8 billion a year from 37,000 doctors who are currently working right now in 77 countries who have all this data. It's inevitable that Cuba is going to start doing these through VR telemedicine because they don't want people to defect, especially doctors. And there are a lot of countries with medical tourism. Malaysia, India, Thailand, Brazil, and Turkey are big. And I know that Malaysia is going to do it because I have a fund I'm starting now which will be funding a VR telemedicine business from Malaysia. 2 million people in a year go and get drug rehab, but there are 26 million addicts in America today. And the treatment protocols are not actually working because we wouldn't have, if it worked, we wouldn't have only 2 million. Okay, so then we can do it. Also, placebo effect works 28% of the time. I have reason to believe that hyper-realistic simulations in VR attached to brain stimulation that can trigger different senses could increase that over 50%. Medical health is a big thing. Why do you want VR? Because it has this dream, the capacity to design a functional environment, precisely administer stimuli, and measure, treat, and train performance there. And they have virtual Vietnam, virtual World Trade Center, terrorist bus bombings. All these things help people get over that trauma. Pain management. So if you look at here, this is showing what pain is. This is without VR. And then with VR, the pain is almost gone. So you have Snow World. These things have been used for thousands of people for more than a decade. Also, this is a giant arachnophobia thing to get people over spiders. They're showing you the giant spider, and then they're going and touching you with it, just like I mean, imagine people get paid to do what people do on Halloween. It's kind of cool. So last 2 slides. Medical VR is a great topic for crowdsourcing. Like, you could find somebody here in this audience today and say, let's go crowdsource and do some kind of a medical VR. No bucks, no Buck Rogers. It's the golden age of crowdsourcing, which is supply, and crowdfunding, which is demand. So I said medical VR is a killer app. Well, what's killed? What's killed on the killer app? Wasted time and money, cancer cells, viruses, bacteria, parasites, ignorance, non-compliance. 20 to 40% of medicines are not taken as directed, and latency in learning. We can accelerate the learning. But why killer app? Because it can be used by almost everyone. I think that VR is the next step in evolution. And finally, last thing, if you're interested in this topic and you want to know more, I have a 440-page book that I wrote with Brett King and 2 other colleagues called Augmented, Life in the Smart Lane. Very proud that in the new arrivals on Amazon, it's #1 in artificial intelligence, #1 in biotech, #1 in robotics and automation, and it'll probably be the best-selling book on technology this year, and I just timed it perfectly. Thank you.